Welcome back to TVNR, and yes, I am back home after 5 weeks in quarantine, putting together a really great production that I think everybody will like. I am very happy to be home, and for those who stayed tuned into TVNR even while I was in quarantine, thank you. I really appreciate you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to comment and to like. And if you're listening via the streaming platforms, whether it be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, or any other streaming platform, great to have you back. Someone did comment, I think 2 weeks ago, in our comment section about who to interview next. And I encourage that you continue to do that because it gives me ideas of what people are hungry for. And this person asked that we look into the world of radio. And I'm so excited to say today we are looking into the world of radio. Yes, it's really exciting. And I thought if I'm going to do radio for the first time on TVNR, it has to be done right and it has to be done with the right person. And this person was particularly very instrumental into the radio presenter I would one day become. And if there's one person's brain who I hope you'd be able to pick first regarding radio, he goes by the name of Roger Good. Yep, he is in the building. We speak, just the environment around radio. Currently, we look into, the future of radio. Some people saying radio is dead, which I don't believe. We speak into, how you create so-called companionships with the people that listen to your radio shows. And just how, he started from the bottom and now he's here. Ladies and gentlemen, Roger Good will be in the building. Without further ado, welcome to TVNR. This is TVNR. Please welcome Roger Good.
Hey! Yes!
Wow. This is probably going to be my fanciest one yet, isn't it? Like you're already showing off. You're showing off with your out of focus, in focus. This is also the only one where I've had a drink and you're having a beer as well.
I'm having a beer with you as well. Cheers. Yeah. Cheers. To seeing my old friend again. It's good to see you again.
It's been forever. How's it been without me, be honest?
No, it sucks. It really does. Obviously I used to see you a lot more, but I really miss listening to your show. I used to love listening to you just ramble.
Ramble.
That magic you can make. You could just, you could. You could talk about anything, and it would just somehow become interesting. You've got an interesting life as well, so you always have cool things going on.
Well, I learned that from you, and I'm not just saying that because we're on this interview, but I learned how to ramble. I learned how to talk about nothing and make it seem like something. I learned that you didn't need to really know much. You just had to pretend.
Just fake it. If ever there was a business, if ever there was a business where you can fake it until you make it. It's this nonsense we do, right?
No, but on the real, I started off at 5FM on the Roger Good show while you were in the afternoon. And I was doing traffic.
Yeah.
But I'd watch how a lot of people don't know, but you'd pre-record like little parts of the show so that you can add all sorts of things to it. I never actually ended up doing any of that, but what I did learn is your technical ability. You can just see, people don't know you like the voice of Metro. People don't know that you create these voices and you create these worlds, but you've been doing this forever. When did you know that you could do this stuff? This weird stuff.
Cheapers. When I was a kid, I think. I must have been. What specifically can I tell you? I think the first time I ever saw, when I was a little boy, when my mom took me to meet my uncle. He was a real computer whiz, and the first time I ever saw a computer, this is years ago, a computer that could like play sound effects. I think, you know what I mean? Like a computer with a sound card that you could do things on. I think I lost my mind. I went crazy. I'm like, this is amazing. And I want to do anything that involves this. And then,
I think you shared with me the story of you joining 5FM. It's when I was born when you joined 5FM.
Jeepers, that long ago.
But you, for those who don't know, just share the story.
So, okay. So basically what happened was I was releasing a lot of music and I was doing like all this kind of stuff. And at some point, this is the very short version, but at some point I got invited to to come on to one of the shows back in the day. This is like the days of, I don't know if anybody remembers like Alex J and,
Of course.
all those guys. Yeah. And anyway, I got invited to come and do an interview on one of the shows, and the producer afterwards, I seem to remember, Bono, he came to me and he's like, have you ever thought about being on radio? Because you never shut up. Like, you just don't stop talking. Like, why don't you do that? And then because I've always, at this point, I was like, I don't know, 22 or 23 or something. And I had developed, I was so into it. I used to create music for a living. Apart from DJing at the fairs in Cape Town, I was a muser. I used to write music for TV commercials. I used to make radio ads, and all sorts of stuff related to the media industry, advertising agencies. I worked with all the creatives, and I just basically hustle, and like week to week making money. Anyway, so I could do anything.
Did you learn that from somewhere? Is it something that you just from watching?
I just figured it all out myself. Honestly, I've got as I said, I love computers. I'm a bit of a nerd that side, and it was just fun and creative, and you'd figure out solutions to things. Anyway, so long story short, he said to me, "Why don't you try out for a radio show?" And I'd always, like, in the back of my head, thought that could be quite fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went and made this demo for the SABC.
Oh, do you still have it?
Because I know how to produce stuff. I've got it somewhere. It's the worst thing you've ever heard. I cringe when I hear it. It's so bad. But I went and made this demo that was so over the top and overproduced. It had like me. There was obviously not a radio show. I went and recorded it in like a booth, like you and I sitting talking.
Yeah.
And then I went and made this thing, and I got friends of mine
like
to
an
pretend
intro
to be callers. Mental. Like intro, bed music. I had friends of mine who were there who I'd record, and they put filters on their voices to make it sound like they were on the phone.
Yeah.
And it had bed music and sound effects and everything. I sent it to the SABC, and I think the program manager at the time listened to it and went like, holy crap. Who's
what
this
a weirdo.
Guy? Like, let's get, like he saw, where's he been hiding kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I get to and I fast forward really quickly, and I get to the first show. Now they gave me I'm really telling the short version. It wasn't as simple. It took a long time to get the show. But anyway, and I remember when the first night I was on air, the program manager, Nick Grubb, was standing there with a bottle of champagne and my contract at the studio. Really nice. In the back in the day, it was like,
that doesn't happen anymore.
No. No, now they hate us.
Now they're like, you're fired.
Yes. Yeah. And I literally, so I moved up to Joburg. I drove up, packed up my life, and I drove up in this little car. And I remember I went into the studio, and I think that they'd gone, Roger's like, we don't have to worry about Roger. He's cool. So your first show's on Sunday. And Sunday night, he's standing there with the champagne and the contract. And I'd never been on the radio in my life. I'd never been in a radio studio. I didn't know. Apart from being able to switch the mic on, I couldn't do. So they got me a desk driver just for the first night. And I sat there. I remember they put my mic on and like, you're live.
You're live.
And I sat there like this. Yeah. And I was like, yeah.
Are we doing this? Yeah.
But we do. And then they cut to music. And then the program manager, like I could see, like suddenly, like he was like, oh crap, what have we done? And then he comes up and he gives me this piece of paper and a pen. And he says, right, you're going to write down and you're going to scripture links and you're going to start. And that was basically, for me, that was my first day of varsity. And I learned over the course of the next, 15 years, basically how to do radio shows. And I've done shows, all different shows. I've done the dance show.
I did say you were there since I was born.
Yeah, but that's what happened, and then and that's all I've. It's only and that's the story.
Yeah, a lot of the one you told me was like the X-rated one. I'm joking, but so when you slipped away there, piano, remember that one?
Yeah.
But if there's one show that a lot of people still to this day can't stop talking about, it was Saturday Night Surgery. What do you think it was about that show that made it so distinctive and so memorable?
it was just I think it was just a perfect time to be on air because so the problem we have now is, you'll know, I don't know, Nasty C or freaking Drake, they can be in the studio wrapping up a track and they'll whip out their phones, they'll play a snippet of the track, share it on the Instagram, and the whole world heard the track basically. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's not quite like that, but access to things now, it's like we're living in the future. It's like it's science fiction almost. In those days, it was vinyl. It was still, everything was on vinyl. It was nuts. Like, and the music wasn't on the internet. MP3s were barely used for anything.
You had to switch on the radio to listen to music.
It was, and I know. So my life was one half like producing the show during the week. And I promise you, you'd never believe this. It used to take me Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 hours to put together those shows on the weekends because it was nuts. And the nature of the music and the house music and the way we would get it was largely on vinyl, white test pressings. So I had to have all these relationships with every single record company in the country. I used to get in my car on a Monday morning, drive the whole of Joburg, go to every record shop, every label. I had special arrangements with each person. Some of the guys would give me the vinyls as long as I went to the SABC, recorded them, and then gave them back to them.
Wow.
Yeah, because they wanted to use it for demos, for compilations, and blah, 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 blah. So anyway, I was obsessed with the way the BBC do radio shows. And they are literally I think that what was magic about it is that you could go on the radio and
sorry, someone's calling
you could
me.
go on, no, it's fine. You could go on the radio, you could go on the air and in those days I could say, I'm going to play something you've never heard before. And I'd play it. That was the whole, and literally I was playing music that had never been heard. People couldn't even get access to. And because I was on the radio, I'd get preferential treatment from everybody. So I had all the cool music first. And I mean, that show, at one point we were like, I'm not kidding, like 4 or 5 months ahead of the playlist committee. I'd play songs that, you know what I mean? In fact, a lot of them used to, it was a really wonderful time. And I think that was the magic. And just,
so what now?
I think also house music. Yeah.
What now? Because
what?
Like, sure, I mean, some people put on the radio. Still, I still feel like there's a different feeling when you playing a song off of your playlist on your phone versus when you hear it on the radio. I get a little bit more excited when I hear it on the radio. Over and above that, you're listening to radio for information, for entertainment, for companionship, which I think you've become for a lot of people over the years. So, I mean, a lot of people say radio is dead.
Maybe it's got a lot to do with the DJ. I keep hearing, I mean, radio is still, it's massive in a country like South Africa, for example, where a massive percentage of the population don't even have access to TV. So radio is still free, white speaking medium, which is still kind of in high quality. But maybe it's just got a lot to do with the DJs. Like, the DJs are the attractions. You were a great example. You could have done that show on your own and just sat there and talked about stuff, and you would have been interesting to listen to. And you get another, and this is why, as I'm getting older, I try not to like listen to a radio show, like say there's somebody that I don't necessarily like.
Yeah.
I try not to tear it to pieces like I used to when I was younger, because it's actually a really difficult thing to go and sit on your own in a room with a microphone and be entertaining and be funny, or tell an interesting story. And that's just, some people can either do it and some people can't. I think at the moment, I mean, okay, so COVID-19 lockdown, I'm telling you now, radio has been a wonderful like friend to a lot of people, to a lot of, even if you were talking about something serious like GBV, girls listening, and if you handled the material in an adult, gentlemanly way, you could be just like a friend. And I think that's it's kind of sweet, because radio was always that to a lot of the old school guys.
It's a friendship.
Used to say,
I don't think it's just old school guys. I mean, I think absolutely radio is a friend. I think you listen to the radio because you hear. It's why people say, for example, you don't show up for your show because you're living your best life. People get upset because that's my friend and we have an appointment and you're not there. You're my friend.
Think of someone actually. I know someone who used to do that quite a lot, actually.
Well, that's because I was friends on many mediums, okay? I wasn't going on a holiday. Like, I can't just desert my friends on TV.
No.
But you're
actually,
right.
You were nuts. I don't think people a lot of people don't know your story about the hours you used to work. I mean, how you ever slept, even when you were at YFM. I remember you telling me on the plane that like you used to, you'd work the whole day, then you'd still get up at like, I can't remember, it was like midnight or something to go and get onto it was the early morning show.
So I used to do 3 to 6, and I was shooting My Perfect Family at the time. Call time was 6:30, so I get on a taxi to be on set by 6:30, and then you do it again and again and again. But I mean, you've had your fair share of that. What do you think makes the difference between a good radio personality and a not so great one?
I don't know. I mean, some people, it's like your friends, I suppose. Some people are just interesting, and other people just aren't. Some people have interesting lives, and some people aren't. Some people are cool, and some people are not cool. I mean, that's it. Radio DJs, quite frankly, should be cool. They should just be cool. Like,
I agree.
Cool.
I agree. I think absolutely. I think that's one way to put it. It's either you're cool or you're not cool. And if you're not cool, I don't want to hang out with you because you're not cool. Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite person on radio right now?
Anywhere in the world?
No, in South Africa. Anywhere in the world would be the easy way out.
So I think I love listening to Spectacular and Nabs. I like Spare. He came out of nowhere, like in terms of like I didn't know he'd ever, I mean, I knew him when he was a marketing assistant back in the day for, in the radio world. And in those days, I'd never really thought that this was something he wanted to do. And I listened to Spare Naves, like, and they've got a cool vibe. Yeah. And you can hear it. They've got, I mean, the calls don't stop on their show. And also, I mean, look, you've DJ'd with them as well. They're just they're such
they're my
nice
brothers.
guys.
They're amazing. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Spare Naves is a great example because those guys you hear on the radio are exactly like that.
Yeah.
When you hang out with them, you go to the house or in the club. So at the moment, I'm listening to Spare Naves.
I think it's distinctively why if I had to choose between TV presenting and radio presenting, it would be radio any day. Only because radio works because you don't pretend. Sure, it's a theater of the mind and you can take something that's really minute and make it seem like this gigantic thing. However, you're not pretending. I don't have to put on a full face of makeup. I don't have to look pretty if I don't feel like looking pretty. I can do with it whatever I want to do with it. And I think that's why radio means so much to me. I don't know if you feel the same.
Absolutely. Also, let's like doing the show. So I've been doing the show from my house, from this room every day.
How nice.
I mean, you have no idea. And, everybody, you know what I've noticed is everybody's like pretending like, oh no, so, we're going to go back to the office. You're like, no, you don't want to go back to the office. No one wants to go back to the office. No. Fantastic. I drag my ass down here at 10 to 6 in my pajamas. No, it's been a trip. It's also, it's been hard work because, it's the problem at the moment as well is if the economy's screwed. So everything's under pressure. So whilst we're having fun, there's a huge pressure to try and make money and to keep the whole wheel turning. And I think that's the sad part about this business we're in. Commercial radio, the problem is it's the only radio we have in this country, and it's largely driven. No, it is. It's entirely driven by money. So whilst the DJs, it's just like the whole money side of it ruins radio shows. Ad breaks. Ad breaks, and then
Go ahead. Sorry to cut you, but there's also been this move from radio DJs doing shows on their own to all of a sudden having 20 people on a radio show. Do you think that's a commercial thing? Where did that start, and what is the reason
they call it like Zoo Radio. I don't know. It's like my problem with that is I've had to learn over the years how to control a large group of people in the air so that it sounds cool. Just little things, I don't want to bore people with like the technicalities, but like listening to 4 people all screaming over each other can drive you mad. Yeah. I don't know, but there's always been this whole. It's like a trend almost that those were supposedly the big shows, but then you get other shows where it's actually I don't know. Some DJs are actually better on their own, talking on their own. Yeah. I'd have to think about that a little bit more. What kills me the most is that we DJs aren't really DJs. They're presenters. Real DJs would play you music that they love. So what I miss, there's certain small moments on the show during the week where I can actually play you my own music, which is a mix. But I hate not being able to pick the music. I got a tweet. Yeah. You know, like
You've got a what?
Oh my, no, no. I got some guy said the other day. He says, "Damn, you're hilarious, but your music sucks."
Like, I didn't choose it.
I didn't choose it. No, but I mean, you know, he obviously heard. I don't know. He heard some, you know, a love ballad or something that he didn't like, and I hated that tweet because that was what I was always renowned for, was like choosing music. Anyway,
a lot of people don't know that radio presenters don't choose the music that plays on
the
their
process
show.
The process they use is also like, you could argue whether or not it actually works. They say they do research, and it's, you know, they cycle music that is calculated to be popular, and there's a frequency at which they'll spin high rotation songs that are popular, and, you know, it's got a lot to do with time spent listening and stuff. And you're right, most people don't actually know that we don't. It's all like, it's an iTunes playlist basically that's put together the day before.
I found that
the way the business works.
The process of becoming a radio DJ back in the day was very difficult. Like, you had to know your shit if you're going to be on radio, right? So you're going through the motions. So you're always behind the bigger stars. You're always sort of putting in the work to get there. Somehow over the years, it's just like you wake up and, hey man, you're on the radio.
There's a massive contentious issue that you'll hear people in the business talking about how exactly what you just said. It's like, it's almost now that, okay, she's got 2 million followers on,
let her be on the radio,
you know, Instagram, you've got to put it on the radio. And I mean, what I remember what we had to go through. Okay, my story I told you about how they plonked me on the air was my own fault. They were duped. They didn't realize. But those days, what you had to go through just to get a show was like, you had to be the best. You had to be the best.
Yeah.
You had to start off as a producer behind the scenes for years, you know, and then you'd get the crappy show at like 3 in the morning, and you'd do that for years, and they'd slowly move you and slowly move you. Yeah. Now it's like nuts. But also an 11-year-old kid can do a podcast from her bedroom. Anyone
can be a radio DJ. However, I've found that with radio, it kind of, you expose yourself. So if you happen to find the work because you have 2 million followers on Instagram or whatever, put you behind a mic and behind that desk and ask you to run it. And the work shows for itself. Radio is not something that you can just, like, I don't think you can even just study it. I think you need to, if you're studying it, study it and then practice for many years before you're able to get it right, like you have.
Yeah. Well,
you didn't study, but
I don't know. I'm also, I know what you mean. Yeah, no, you're right. And what are your thoughts on, like, could you have the same argument about TV presenters? Because now, look at Instagram. It's almost like everybody is in some way now a TV presenter. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, in the same way that you say an 11-year-old can put on like a screen like this and interview someone they find or create a show. Anyone can do it. Who can do it well is a different question. Anyone can do it, but who can do it and do it right is a completely different thing. With radio, I think it's very hard to fake, because you're not just, you're the producer, you know, in as much as your content producer will have bulletproof points of what's on the show today, you have to bring that content to life. It's unlike TV presenting where it's scripted. Radio is not 100% scripted. You're also the technical producer because you're working the desk the whole time. You're also the conductor because you're working with 5 other people at the same time. You're also the receptionist because you're answering phone calls. And now there's WhatsApp messages, so you're also pressing play. Like, it's a sort of madness that I think only certain people can get right.
Madness. Yeah.
If I'm a young person watching this, how do I begin? How do I become Roger Good?
Oh my goodness me. I mean, what? It's always been the same thing. You'd have to make some kind of demonstration of what you can do. And that's, you know, you've got to hustle to get into a studio. You've got to try and record yourself in some way. But now it's so easy. You got look, we're doing this now.
Yeah.
We're online. We're doing millions of people.
And if I am a young person in radio and I'm sort of trying to climb the ranks, like one like advice I would give is stand in. Like, stand in as much as you can stand in.
I thought the way I interpreted your question is even before you've got into the building.
Oh,
you'd
no.
have
So
to
that
go
was
and
the first one. Now, this is now if you're in the
right.
building.
So just to answer that, you'd have to go and scratch the door down and be an anorak and hang around until they let you go and be an intern and go and be an intern and just go and be a slave until eventually an opportunity comes up where you can, that kind of thing. On air, you're right. The stand-ins, that's the magic secret. They always say don't outshine the DJ that you're standing in for.
Oh,
That's
outshine them.
nonsense. That's absolute nonsense.
Outshine the
If
shit
that
out of
guy
them.
couldn't be bothered, if he couldn't be bothered to be there for work, you go in there and you blow them away. Because how else are you supposed to do it?
Yeah.
The program manager is going to be listening during the day or whenever show you're standing in for. Put on a fireworks display.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one thing I know I did before I became the one who gets stood in for.
Yeah. You went fast, hey?
Which is another danger or a good thing for me. In retrospect, it was a good thing, but there's a pace to radio, right? There's a pace to what you're doing when you're doing it, and not saying yes to everything that's come your way. I remember my move from Y. I was offered a daytime show as the host, and then I was offered to be a traffic presenter on the Roger Good Show.
I remember that. And I remember having the coffee. Do you remember with Tim at
with
Rosebank?
Tim's uncle. And I chose to go be a traffic presenter on the Roger Good Show because I thought long term I'll just do Roger Good's show.
Exactly. No, but that's right. And there was an element of calculation there as well. There's also the debates about, fortunately, when you joined there's also national shows. There was a wider reach.
Yes.
There's more opportunities, Yeah. But now you're gone.
Now I'm gone. I'm sorry. You sound so sad.
I know. I loved your show. I was the biggest fan. Honestly, I loved it.
Thank you, Roger.
Even on days where you were winging it, those like
I swear, if you are the king of winging it, I know when you're winging it. I know when it's not in the content sheet. It's not there. You're not supposed to be doing it, but Roger does it. I think it's one of the biggest lessons I learned from you. I learned to multitask. I learned to listen when you're not listening. I learned to do radio, and I thank you. And I thank you for the 30 minutes.
No, man, you're kidding. That's so sweet.
It's finished.
No.
And yeah, it's been amazing. No, really, like the way I do radio has 100%, or did radio, has 100% been because of you. There's so much. I pride myself in the way I run a desk, and it's because in as much as I had calculated that this is what I was going to do, I was in the presence of greatness, and I was going to spend the time there trying to just eat up as much as I could. And I think it's because of that my career worked out. So thank you for this interview. Thank you for my radio career. Now I must find my applause. There's the applause.
No, thank you. That really means a lot from even just to you inviting me to come on your show. I was so chuffed. I can't tell you. I was so excited. I got dressed up and everything.
Oh, you're dressed up?
I couldn't wait. Yeah.
Love you.
It's supposed to be cool, but I mean, who cares? Yeah, you're the best. You're the best. You're the best.
A part of me feels like that was just a catch-up session and I was selfishly using it as part of this podcast. But I hope you were able to take something away from it. I had so much fun catching up with Roger. And I always say, there's certain things you can Google, but you can't Google human experience. And I think this is one human's experience you want to have had experience. So tell your friends, who are within the radio sphere, who need to hear this, that they need to hear this. Again, hit that subscribe button. And again, I always say, please comment with future guests that you would like me to check out. A huge shout out to Roger Good. I know he's a very busy man, for making time for us. Thank you so much as well for tuning in and for making time for me. Until 2 weeks time, goodbye. Love you. Mwah.